Hello everyone, my name is Joe Aulicino and I'm an account executive with CCSI. Thank you for attending today's webinar. It's actually the second in a series of 3 that we're providing. Today's discussion will be on migration to the cloud. The next session will be cost containment and we'll be providing you with date and time logistics. Joe Goldberg, who is CCSI's Cloud Practice Manager, will be presenting how to leverage the cloud. And for those of you that aren't familiar with CCSI, we have been in business since 1974. Our core competencies include infrastructure, which incorporates the data center, IPT, wireless, disaster recovery, also security, anything to do with risk assessments and pen and vulnerability testing, DDoS solutions, secure mail, and endpoint protection, and cloud, which we're going to be discussing today. We're also an MSP, which is a managed service provider, and we also provide managed security service provider. We also do hardware maintenance, and that is around our CCSI practice, which is CCSI.net. For any questions during the WebEx today, please place them into the chat. And I'd like to introduce Joe Goldberg. Again, he's from our cloud practice offering. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I want to start today by kind of setting a level field and defining what is cloud computing. According to NIST, it's a on-demand, self-service type service. It has resource pooling, rapid elasticity, so you can grow and shrink your service quickly. It's a measured service because you're only paying for what you use, and it has broad network access. Generally, that means that it's accessible over the internet. When thinking about moving to the cloud, we should all remember the wise words of Gartner. As they say, the most common path to cloud application failure is to assume you can simply migrate workloads and always save money. That is definitely not the case. Just like any other migration, it requires a good amount of planning and some experience in the services that are offered by the different cloud service providers. So there are 3 primary challenges that you need to address as you're going to a cloud migration. You need to make sure you have a plan. You need to have a good plan, as with any sort of migration. You need to understand what the risks of the migration are and how you're going to mitigate those risks during the move. And then after you move, because the cloud is a metered service, you need to be able to contain your costs and have some sort of governance to keep your infrastructure clean. CCSI really simplifies the whole migration process. We break it up into 5 relatively easy steps: discovery, assessment, migration plan, migration and test, and then a go live. And we're going to explain each one of these 5 steps to you. During the discovery process, we'll work with you to inventory all of your applications and all the supporting infrastructure. For example, if you have a SharePoint server that you're moving to the cloud, it will have a couple of farm servers, web servers, backend database servers. We'll take all that information because you move services to the cloud as a service, not server by server. We're going to inventory all the supporting infrastructure, so we're going to need to understand what your network looks like so we can try to reproduce that or redesign that as best needed, and also your security posture so that your security doesn't change as you move to the cloud. And any other data that's relevant to your organization or unique to your organization. We're going to gather all of that. And then all that data feeds into the second phase, which is the assessment. And during the assessment, we're going to determine what we're going to do with all the applications. Some applications you're just going to want to lift and shift. You're going to want to just pick it up and put it into the cloud exactly as it is. Some you might decide you want to change the operating system on, so you might want to re-platform it. Some of them might have issues. They can't move to the cloud exactly as they are, so you need to remediate those issues. Some applications, some legacy applications, you might say, you know what, I don't really need this anymore, and I'm going to decommission it. And then, of course, there's some applications that can't move to the cloud for one reason or another, and those will stay back in your data center and be part of the private portion of your hybrid cloud. And then you need to determine what sort of cloud deployments you're going to be using. And you can mix and match these. Some applications are going to use infrastructure as a service, which is virtual servers. Like in Amazon, it would be EC2. Some will use platform as a service. If you can do that, there can be significant money, financial savings there. And that would be, again, using Amazon as an example, that would be like their Lambda service. Some applications you may convert to a SaaS offering. Like if you have internal Exchange servers, you may, excuse me, you may decide you want to go to Office 365. And some services you're just going to want to keep back in your private cloud. Most people in the end up with a hybrid cloud with some services running internally and some running in the public cloud. And then we need to determine who the target cloud vendor is. And there's a lot of factors that feed into that based on the services they offer, the costs, the support offerings, data center locations, et cetera. We at CCSI are a cloud agnostic provider. We support Amazon, Microsoft Azure, and GCP, the Google Cloud. The next step is migration planning. Once we understand all the applications and we understand what we're going to do with each service, then we put together a plan. We're going to prioritize which services move first, which services are going to move next, so on and so forth. We're going to estimate the price, how long it's going to take, and how much it's going to cost, and then what your monthly operational cost in the cloud is going to be. And you need all that information so that you can put together a business case to go to your management and say, in these applications, we're going to save X amount of dollars. In these applications, we're going to increase productivity by 20% so that you can make the business case to your management. Some applications you might want to conduct pilot installs for. You may need to test the latency of the application. You may need to test how reliable it is in the cloud. This is the opportunity to do it. You want to make sure that the architecture that's designed is designed to be as future-proof as possible. You have a lot of different options when moving to the cloud, and you should be taking advantage of those and kind of shifting your thinking to the as-a-service model. And then finally, we're going to define a migration roadmap. And that's going to be basically a big like Microsoft project roadmap that's going to say, here's everything that's going to get done and assign dates to it. So we all know where we're at as the migration moves forward. The fourth step is doing the actual migration. And that's where we're going to actually start moving the applications to the cloud. We're going to migrate databases, network infrastructures, and all the relevant connected stuff. Once that's moved, we're going to validate and make sure everything is operating as it should. So you're still running on your on-premise environment, but we're going to be validating everything in the cloud with you. There really is no such thing as too much validation. We make sure as best to our ability that everything during the cutover is going to go according to plan. And then you have that fateful day where you go live, and that's where we cut the cord on the internal systems and say we're now running completely out of the cloud. We have to transition support, so now the support organization is supporting services in the cloud rather than on your premise. And we'll do a post-migration review, and we'll do that for each service. So we learn as we go. So the first service we cut over for you, if there were hiccups or minor issues, we'll be able to mitigate those before we migrate the next service. And update the documentation. Obviously, all the documentation that you have will need to be updated, and that's part of what our final deliverable is. As we move each phase, we will be adding updated documentation. And that's really it for cloud migration as we see it at CCSI. As Joe was saying, our next webinar is going to be on cost optimization and governance, and that will be in about a month. So I want to take a moment to thank everybody and also to see if there are any questions.
Joe, I have a couple of questions for you. The first one was, could you give an estimate on the length of time it would take to migrate a application or even multiple applications into the cloud?
It depends upon the size of the migration. The assessment phase, depending upon the size of the environment, can take 1 to 2 weeks. And from there, we're able to put together a whole migration plan and then determine the length of time. Usually migrations take between 6 and 8 weeks.
And what type of tools does CCSI use for migration?
CCSI uses a lot of tools. Some of them are dependent upon the cloud environment we're moving to. AWS and Azure and Google all have tools that we use built in to help us migrate VMware and Hyper-V environments. And we also have some partners that have tools that assist us. We also try to build the environment using infrastructure as code. So we use Terraform to build the infrastructure. And if customers want, we can use tools like Ansible to do configuration management.
Thanks, Joe. And another question here is, from a support standpoint, this is support related, what type of support does CCSI offer once we're up and running with the cloud?
CCSI has a full 24/7 network operations center and security operations center, and they can monitor your entire cloud infrastructure 24 hours a day. They can, based on runbooks that are determined with the customer, they can take action, whether it's just notifying the customer or actually trying to mitigate issues. The technicians, we have AWS and Microsoft certified technicians that work the 24/7 shifts. And we also have SANS certified security operations personnel that are on all the shifts. And all 3 shifts run out of our headquarters here in Bohemia.
Here's another question, Joe, just came in. Does CCSI have any partnerships with regards to migrating to the cloud, and also with regards to disaster recovery in the cloud? Or is it all of our own built-in solutions, or do we have other partners that we help?
It's a mix. We have some of our own tools, and we also have partners that we use, like Unitrends. We're partnered with AWS, we're partnered with Microsoft, and we're about to partner with HashiCorp.
Can you give just a little more information on that last one, Joe, that you had mentioned?
Oh, HashiCorp makes a lot of the automation tools we use for infrastructure as code, such as Terraform. So we're going to be adding that to our partnership role.
Well, thank you, Joe. And I'd like to thank everyone who had questions. We appreciate it. And again, thank you for signing up today. I thank you again for your time, and your account managers, they'll be following up with you to answer any questions that you have, maybe any additional information you need, and discuss next steps. And our next Cloud WebEx will be on cost containment. Joe and I will be running that. And again, we'll be updating you with date and time once we have confirmation on that. So again, thank you and have a great day.